BB? We're here. A little windy day today.
Yeah.
And we're going to be seeing the oldest man that was buried in Bartow, Florida. And if you come into the Woodlawn that way, there's the fence. Here's the first white wall. Hedges white wall. Hedges white wall. He's in the first white wall. We had to drive on the grass. You can drive on this grass. The road ends there. I think if you come in and make an immediate right, I don't know if you can drive that way out, but we'll find out. But if not, you would just come this way, get on a clear road, come back and around. And this gentleman lived here in Bartow, Florida, and his name is Charles Smith. Charlie Smith. I'm sorry. And the crazy thing is this gentleman passed away in 1979. Okay, and he was born in 1842.
He was 137 years old.
And just imagine, he was probably the oldest man alive, because I haven't heard someone that's lived past 137 or that's still alive today, no. Correct?
It says America's oldest man.
Right.
When he died.
When he died, right. He's the oldest man. Mm-hmm. Right. But I don't know if they're trying to say the oldest man buried or the oldest man alive, because like I said, with technology today, you would think you can live older than 137.
Well, you can, but I'm thinking at 137 years old, if he made it that long, mm-hmm. He was an active man.
Oh, he was active. Why don't you read that piece of paper and see how active he was, because you're going to find out a lot of things. I know you didn't read it. I studied up on it, but read his history, and you're going to see how active this guy was.
He's from...
Yeah, this man was a slave. He was a slave. Yes. Yeah, he was a slave. You're supposed to read it out loud to everyone, but he came from Liberia.
Oh, Liberia.
Yeah,
okay.
He was a slave from Liberia.
Oh.
Staying focused for Jesus.
Thanks for waking up with us.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Staying Focused for Jesus. Back again, blessed again to be making another video, making another sermon to give you some things to think about, to edify you in the spirit, to stir up the gift that is within you, hopefully, if you are born again, and to add to the puzzle of history so that we can understand things better and we can have a clear view of what's going on, and so that our judgment can be righteous. We want our judgment to be righteous. We don't want to study history. We don't want to study the Bible and just understand things from one perspective. We don't want to do that. We want to understand it from all perspectives. And we have many black people that speak about slavery. They are balls to the wall, as we say, when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade that primarily involved white people. But the same black folks are not up in arms about the slave trade that happened before the transatlantic slave trade, which we know as the transatlantic sub-Saharan slave trade, or the Arab slave trade, which historically, if you go research it, it was physically worse than the slave trade that our closer ancestors went through. And that is historical fact. So we want to make sure that our judgment is righteous. If we're going to say the things that we say about white people in regards to slavery, which I myself don't do that because I understand why we went into captivity and all these different things. I speak the truth unbiased, and I speak all of it. That yes, it was white people involved in it, but it was also black people involved in not only the slave trade that we are talking about, but the previous slave trade. And that's why I addressed the slave trade in regards to when we were talking about war and stuff like that. Slavery more so deals with war than it does with a time of peace and stuff like that. So I've been sitting on this for a minute, actually for like over a year or two, and some of you may have heard this, but I want to speak it according to the testimonies and the witnesses that God has given me to speak it. So to be fair in my judgment, I want to share this with you, what we're going to read on Wikipedia. So the person speaking is Charlie Smith. This is the person we're talking about. Or some people call him Charles, Charlie. And it says, Charlie Smith was a centenarian noted for claiming to be the oldest person in the United States. So he claimed to be the oldest person in the United States. Obviously, at that time, there would really have been no way to know for sure if he was the oldest. So he could have said that. Somebody else could have told him. You know, we don't really know. Smith stated that he had been born in Liberia in 1842, kidnapped to the United States at age 12, and sold into slavery in Louisiana to a Texas rancher. Later research indicated that he had been born circa 1874 or even later. In particular, his marriage certificate issued January 8th, 1910, listed him as being 35 years old at the time. So I'm being fair in my judgment because you have to understand these things, you have to see these things. So the argument isn't so much that he was a slave. The argument isn't so much that, oh, this man did not come over on the slave ship. The argument is more so about his age. The argument is more so about his age and his claim that he was the oldest person at that particular point in time. So they're low key. They can't come out and say directly that this man wasn't a slave because they know 9 times out of 10 he was a slave, because how did he get over there during that time period? Blacks got over there on slave ships. So they can't discredit him in that regard. So they attack his age and say, well, you know, it's more than likely he was probably a descendant of a slave who was born over here or whatnot. That's what they're really trying to say. Because they can't just come out directly and say, well, nah, he isn't who he say he is. So when you put that doubt there, then you got to understand the psychology of mankind and womankind. You can give a person 1,000 points of truth. And y'all know I'm playing on words because you know about the 1,000 points of light. Some of you do. You can give a person 1,000 points of truth. Solid overall. And if you mess up on one point, if you're not clear on one point, or if they don't understand that one point, they will use that as a reason to doubt everything else that you have said. Everything else can be solid, like concrete, like, you know what I'm saying, written in the heavens solid. And they will take one point because they're looking for one point to have doubt about why what you're saying isn't true. We speak about who the Hebrews are according to the flesh. And I know that in the videos I've made, I may not have clarified something as clear as I could have. But you got to realize I'm already making a 2-hour or a 3-hour or a 4-hour or a 5-hour video. So I'm going to make mistakes in certain things I may say. I may pronounce a word wrong, or I may just have a brain lapse in a certain point that I'm making because I forgot it, or, you know, whatever. And they'll take that and say, oh, see, everything else you're saying is garbage. It's not true. So that means that the Hebrews of the flesh, they can't be black because you're wrong on this one point. And then I can come back and I make another video, expounding or addressing certain points that I didn't expound on previously. And then they will find another excuse to doubt because that's what they want. They don't really want the truth. So that's how doubt works. This is why you see me so, as we say, gung-ho when it comes in regards to the scriptures. If you either you believe it or you don't believe it. If you doubt in the scriptures, then you're going to doubt everything else because doubt is like a cancer. It spreads. It spreads. So this is what they were more so trying to do with him by casting doubt, because they couldn't completely cast doubt on him being if he wasn't literally a slave that came over from the slave ships, we can conclude that he was a descendant of one who came over on a slave ship because of him being in America during that particular point in time. Yes, we know that every black person that came over to America didn't come over on slave ships. You had Hebrew Israelites that came over from Ireland, from Scotland, through England when King James was ruling, and then migrated into the Americas. I know that because that's where my lineage traces back from. I most likely we're gonna say my immediate ancestors, because you know obviously tracing our way back, that's still my ancestors that came over on slave ship. But we're gonna say my immediate ancestors most likely came through that way. Now, does it mean that some of them, my immediate ancestors, were not slaves? That ain't what I'm saying. But I've been tracing my lineage for my own personal understanding about who God has called me to be. Understanding who I am, because if I understand who I am and who God has called me to be, then it makes me a better pastor. It makes me a better preacher. It makes me a better prophet. It makes me a better man of God. It makes me a better father. It makes me a better husband. It makes me a better friend. So that's why I study those things in regards to me personally. And my name being Scottish and Irish. You can go look up, I forgot the name of the king that was over there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it on the screen for y'all. And this was a black king who was ruling over there in what we call Scotland and Ireland. And then we know, well, y'all might not know, but a lot of them, they were, we're going to say, in bed. They have mutual relationships with King James, because that was the establishment of royalty over there. Even in the Scotland Constitution, I think it is, or the Declaration of Independence, they talk about tracing their lineages all the way back to being of the 12 tribes of Israel. So I find that just unique in my own studying, because I always wondered, like, my name, why is my name Kelson Delte King? That's not a typical black name for a black person. But I understand that God made sure that I got that name because he knew who I was going to be today, and he knew that I was going to study these things out. The Bible tells us that it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, and it is the honor of kings to search out that matter, search out what God has hidden. He's also hidden who I am, and now it's being revealed, and it gives me a better understanding of myself, which makes me just a better overall person in Christ. So It says, in particular, his marriage certificate issued January 8th, 1910, listed him as being 35 years old at the time. So they're saying, well, his birth certificate, his marriage certificate says this. So, you know what I'm saying? This is a discrepancy, which it is a discrepancy. But they leave it at that. Okay, why does it say that? Did the person who did the marriage certificate say that? Make it that way? Or did he do that for other reasons? Because he was trying to maybe hide his identity at the time, because maybe he was on the run. Maybe he just didn't want people to really know who he was at the time because of what was going on. There are many reasons that that a person could do that. And, you know, more so why a slave would say that they are one age when they're really not that age. You know, he could have been doing it because of the woman he was marrying. Who really knows? We would have to dig deep into history to understand these things. So it goes on and says he died in Bartow, Florida on October 5th, 1979 at the age of 105 according to researchers, or 137 according to his own claim. So the argument is about how old he was. The argument more so, he was 105. No, he was 137. The man was old. He lived for a very long time according to our standards. It's simple. There's really no reason to argue about if he was 137 or 105. That's a moot point. But they do that because they want you to focus more so on that than what he actually said and where he actually came from. Later, subsequent research showed Mr. Smith listed in the 1900 census as 21, suggesting he could have been only 100 years old. Well, if he took on this identity, then it would have said that. So you got one that says 105. You got one that says 137. You got one that says 100 years old. Either way, the man was old. He was at least 100 years old. You know what I'm saying? But this is what people will argue about. To say, well, he's not legit in what he professed. He's not a credible witness. If the man say he was 137 years old, then I'm tending to believe the man say he was 137 years old, and that he knows more than they know, because he probably made himself younger, or you know what I'm saying? Well, he would have made himself younger for specific reasons about, or I shouldn't say about, but in regards to what was going on in that particular point in time. We know that black folks, we will lie about our age for different reasons. People get pulled over by the police and how old are you? So-and-so age. And you sitting there lying, you know you're lying. Trying to be older or younger than what you really are. We understand these things, but obviously they didn't. How do we know that? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Once you understand the patterns, then it makes it easier to discern. Especially once you understand the patterns amongst your own people. So it says, it is possible that he was given the birth name Mitchell Watkins and adopted at an early age in the years right after the Civil War, with his memories embellishments from stories told by older ex-slaves. So it's saying that part of his story is fabricated. What you're going to hear is that he said that he took on the name Mitchell Watkins from his mother, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to give you another example. The famous Christopher Columbus. I've read books where the description of Christopher Columbus contradicts each other greatly. One description would make it seem like he was a mulatto. Another one would make it seem like he was black. And another one would make it seem like he was white with blonde hair and blue eyes. Why is there such inconsistencies amongst Christopher Columbus in regards to what he looked like? Why? Why are all the portraits of Christopher Columbus not the actual portraits of Christopher Columbus? If you go look at the portraits of Christopher Columbus, most of them are not the same. They're completely different. Why is that? Why is this great man of America that they claim to be great? Why can't they be consistent in who he is? Why don't they tell people that Christopher Columbus was not his real name, and that it was a name that he took on because he served in the military, and then he escaped? If I'm not mistaken, he served in the Navy, and then his ship was destroyed, and he got out of there, and then he went and took on another identity and he became somebody else. But they don't tell you all that though, do they? No, they don't tell you that. I believe that Christopher Columbus was either a mulatto or he was black. And maybe one day I will get to that, and I will show you the evidence of that. Actual eyewitness accounts. And other evidence to back it up. So it could have been a situation like this. He lied about his age for whatever reason. And maybe he did take on stories that he learned from the ex-slaves and made them his own. I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with that. Because, we all do that. When you read the Bible and you take on those stories and you go there, you say, this is my people. And yeah, we came over on slave ships and everything. You literally, sometimes you'll say, I came on the slave ship too. I was there with them. Now, if he was manipulating it to make himself more greater or to get prestige or whatever, then, that's between him and God. But it doesn't negate that the stories are true. He just happened to either come over on a slave ship at the age of 12, or he was born from slaves that came over on the slave ship, or he came over and he was never a slave, but he still came from that lineage. Right? And then he took on the stories because that is his people. So even if he did take on these stories, it says they were told by older ex-slaves. He took on the stories because he could relate to them. Like I said, I'm being fair in my judgment. I'm being fair in my judgment. I'm trying to look at it from all angles. That's just how I do. But it says, but evidence of this is spotty, and it is unlikely that such an adoption would be verifiable, with records quite unreliable right after the Civil War. So it's saying they can't verify if he embellished these stories from older ex-slave, or if he was really telling the truth. They're saying there's not enough evidence for either or. So most likely we know that he literally came over on the slave ship. So now that we read that, I want to actually go into the interview, and what we're going to do is he's going to say certain things, and then I'm going to pause it, and then I'm going to interject on that point that he's making.
The following is an interview between Elmer Sparks, Texas ranchman and historian, with Charlie Smith, old-time slave of Bartow, Florida. We've already got on the introduction on it.
Okay.
Is it turning?
Yes.
Mr. Smith, what is your full name?
Charlie Smith.
Charlie Smith.
The man raised me named me Charlie Smith. My first name what my mother named me is Mitchell.
Yeah.
Mitchell Watkins. That's what my mother and father named me. Mitchell Watkins. I was raised in that, was born in Africa and come from the United States. The state that was in slavery time, they sold the colored people.
Yes.
Sold the colored people and they bring them from Africa. And they brought me from Africa. I was a child, a boy. The colored folks wanted to throw me off the boat coming from Africa. Throw him overboard. I just cussed. Throw him overboard, let the damn wheel swallow him like it done the Jonah.
Now, I think this is a very, very, very important point that he just made. So he's saying that he was on a slave ship. And he was young, and the other slaves, they were saying, throw him overboard, throw him overboard, throw him overboard. Let the whale get him like Jonah. But people tell you that we didn't know about the Bible. A lot of black people and white people, they believe it too, and they teach it, that whites gave us the Bible when we came over here on the slave ship as slaves. And then we had the Bible. But here, this ex-slave, because obviously he has passed on, this ex-slave, he was on the ship, and they were quoting scripture. Throw him overboard like they did with Jonah. How would they know that? How would the slaves know that unless they already had their hands on the Bible? So all these people that are telling you contrary, oh no, we didn't have the Bible, we didn't have Christianity until later, they're lying to you. And the question you must ask yourself is, why are they purposely lying to you? You see, sometimes I sit on this stuff, just let it simmer a little bit. You know, let you do your own little research and stuff like that to see if you really gonna accept the truth. Now I tell you, hey, I got this video I've been sitting on for a while. I'm gonna drop it one day. Then I may not drop it, and I just come back around and I drop it and like, boom.
Hadn't it been the colored one wanted to throw me off. Hadn't it been for Legree, and the captain of the boat, Legree was a white man, and the captain of the boat was a white man. But the colored one wanted to throw me off the boat. And there was Jake. And he bring me from Africa. Liberia, Africa, where I was born from.
So again, Mr. Smith is saying that it was black people that were wanting to throw him off of the boat. Now, we don't know. He hasn't told us yet, and I don't know if he is going to tell us, because it's been a while since I listened to this, why they wanted to throw him off of the boat. I'm pretty sure if we went back into history and we read a few books or whatnot, we can come to a conclusion about why. But he himself says that it was the captain and it was the chaplain, who were both white, that were looking out for him. Now, what I believe is that Mr. Smith, he really believed in the Most High. And he was probably talking about the Most High on the ship. And the reason I say that is because the scriptures tell us that God will make you at ease with your enemies. And obviously with him being young, you know, he might have had a little hot mouth or whatever. You know, that could have been a combination of it too. But I believe it was more so that the Lord had his hand of protection over this man so that he can make it and then tell this story, and then ultimately for people like myself to break it down the way that I'm breaking it down, and, you know, for others to use it also. So that's what I believe in that regards, what I am discerning, whatnot, based on what the scriptures teach. But God will do that. God will take white people and he will use them to even help his own people, to bless his own people. We see that all throughout scripture. We see the prophets said they were found, desired by those people who didn't know anything about God, but they wanted to know about God. And so many of the prophets end up dwelling with the heathen nations, teaching them the ways of the Lord.
And put it in the United States, but the northern people bought colored folks, put you up on a block and say to you, bid you, the highest the bidder get you. highest bid it gets. But the northern people bought colored folks. And the south bought colored folks. And the northern people didn't care the colored people. To the north said it's too cold for them, you know, to stand the cold. But you got southern white folks. You got southern white folks to look after them and pay the colored white folks, southern white folks to look after them. And they got to mistreating them.
So if you study history, you know what he's saying. It is true. He said that the northern people, they paid the southern people money to look after the slaves because they said, hey, they don't need to be up here in the north in the cold. They need to be in the south because, hey, that's where they come from. They come from a environment that is hot. They're not going to make it in this northern climate. They're not going to be able to thrive and do what we need them to do. So we're going to send them down there, and we're going to pay y'all. And y'all have them do what we need you to do, blase, blase. And again, we know this is true. We know the Civil War was over, really over the slaves. And we know the North and the South, they were both making money off of the slaves and whatnot. The slaves would pick the cotton. The cotton would be sent up north to be processed and stuff like that to make clothes and everything. And then that's how the cycle continued.
So, and it come down the north and the south. First fought war to free the colored. North and south fought war. And that was slavery time. And freedom and giving them. Yeah. I ain't reading for it because I couldn't read. I know when it was done. And the man to put you up on a block, to sell you, to bid you all. And when they come down here in freedom, they bought the North bought the whole state of Louisiana and get into the colored people for their territory and make the laws and rules for sale. And the colored people sold the rights, sold out to the white, silver and white. And that's freedom. North freedom. The North and South fought war. The first war was in the United States. North and South fought war to free the colored people from slavery time. I ain't reading for it because I couldn't read. I know it because I was in the crew.
So we obviously know that the North did not free the slaves from the South, but it was all a setup. So on the surface, it looked like freedom. According to what he perceived, it looked like freedom because they came down, they allegedly gave them freedom and said that we freed you and stuff like that. But we know all they did was establish a new and a more efficient system of slavery. So I just want to make sure that I corrected him on that. Not so much correct him, but he was obviously ignorant to certain facts that we have the privilege of knowing today.
Because the colored people, and all this did hate me from a child, bringing me from Africa.
So there he is saying it again. He said that the coloreds, they hated him even from when he was a child. So if they hated him from when he was a child, then that tells you there's some type of backstory to that. And we see that also in the scriptures. There were certain children that people of Israel hated their own people, that child, because of what that child represented. This man's family could have been straight up royalty over there on a position of power, or his family, or I should say his family tribe, could have been at war with some of the other ones that were on the slave ship. But notice he had also said what? He said that the blacks, they banned him from Africa. They banned him. They're the ones that banned him from Africa.
The colored want to throw me off the boat. Throw him overboard. Cuss. Throw him overboard. Let cook. Let the
How did you come to be on the block, get out, and brought over here? Was you brought over by surprise?
Yeah, they brought me over here. The North, the people, solely colored people.
Did they trick you to get you on the boat?
Never. They fooled you on the boat. They fooled the colored people on the boat. I asked my mama, could I go down to the boat landing to see that white man? I was raised in Africa. That was in Africa.
Yeah.
There was I was raised, born there in Africa.
Yeah.
The white folks didn't know white people stay in Africa, south part of Africa.
Yeah.
They stayed in the north part of Africa.
Now here's where it gets very interesting. So he says that he asked his mother, can he go down to the, obviously, I think he said boat land, but it would be called what we call the boat yard or whatever, where the boats was, where the white man was. Obviously the white men that were over the boats and that were on the boats and stuff like that. So we know that white people had their hand in it. But what black people don't want to address is that it was first and foremost our own people. Our own people. And he says that there wasn't really no white people that stayed in the south of Africa, on the Ivory Coast, on what's known as the Slave Coast. But he said all the white people, they stayed in the northern part of Africa. Why? Because we had got kicked out of the northern part of Africa, Israel, and these different places. And then we ran down that way to the Ivory Coast and all these different places. That's how we got down there, because we always ran down that way when something popped off. And so he's sitting there saying that white folk didn't stay down here because there was no reason for them to stay there. So you had black civilizations, black communities, black families. I ain't saying that there were no white people that stayed there, but obviously you see what he's saying. He said if you want to see where the white folks stayed at in Africa, they stayed up north, occupying the land. Exactly what the scriptures say. The Gentiles occupying the land and also going in there and finding out information about, hey, where they at? Well, we know where you can get the slaves from. The Hebrews of the scriptures, the Jews of the scriptures, we know where they're at, which is what the black folks told them. Hamites told them, and you had Israelites that turned on their own people and told them folks where we was at. Obviously, because they was down there with the ships. And we read in the book of Psalms 83 that all nations are confederate against Israel, even of our own people. So this is the whole story right here. This is crazy, but very, very, very interesting.
And they were the solely colored people in the south part of Africa. They put you up on a block and bid you all.
Are you listening to what the man is saying? He said even over there in Africa, they had an auction block that they used to sell our people off. Even in Africa, South Africa, they had an auction block used to sell our people off. Because the basis of the transatlantic slave trade, they got it from over there. They got it from over there. Which is why when he came to America and they sent him up north, they had the same thing, the auction blocks, because they got the system and the foundation from Africa. Wall Street is based off of the slave market, for those who didn't know. And that's why they trade the stocks and the bonds and the birth certificates on Wall Street, on the stock market, still trading people as slaves. That's why you can't stop this whole pedophilia thing and sex trafficking and all this stuff that's going on, because the whole system has to come down when Christ brings it down.
And the way they got us on the boat, he said, come right in here. That was the citizen. Come in here. Color in you, all the color. Over in that country, you don't have to wait If you get hungry, all you got to do is go to the flitter tree. Had the flitter tree on the boat. Clean. That's the flitter tree. You go to the flitter tree. Same thing now, people call them United States, call them pancakes, they call them flitters. Them flitter trees, bad that tree bad, the flitters are clean. The other flitter tree, it's on the boat, he got on. Chad shows the flitter tree on the boat. Come on down here. Call the lower deck on the flitter tree, then it shows the syrup tree. The other syrup tree, it is on the boat, too. Come on down here. And the hole on the lower deck on the boat, they keep called the hatch hole. Come on down here in the hatch hole. To show something down there. Got out in the hatch hole, we should thought the boat moving, but we thought it was going back up there to the flitter tree. And it was leaving. And when it landed in New Orleans. They were the colored people so late.
So now we see how they tricked them to get on the boat. They told them, come on over here. You come to this country. You ain't got to work. We're going to take care of you. Blase, blase. They had the trees set up or whatever, showing that, hey, we got food. We got the pastries and stuff. You ain't got to worry. You ain't got to worry about nothing. Now you may say, let me say this before I say what I'm gonna say next. Obviously, there was some ignorance there and not using wisdom in that situation. Thinking like, man, this is too good to be true. Obviously, they were not following the ways of the Most High, because if they were, then they would have known, according to the scriptures, like, nah, I know what the scriptures say, and this just seems like something that the scriptures are talking about, because God had already prophesied that he would do that to us. Take us out of our land on ships and send us to another land that our forefathers didn't live in, meaning that's not our homeland. So God made a lot of our people blind to the fact that, hey, this is Bible prophecy, where it end up putting us on the ship to be sent over here and sent around the world for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, which was what? Because of what? Because of our disobedience. Because a brother like me, you talking about some going over there and not having to work, just me, I'm like, nah, I gotta do some work, man. I need to know more details. Cause you ain't about to send me over here and then have me looking like boo-boo the fool. That's just me. Some of you probably thinking the same thing, like, nah, I wouldn't have gotten that ship. I would have been standing off from a distance and seeing what's going on. But like I said, God blinded them, obviously, to not, it didn't click to say, hey, hold on now. Deuteronomy talk about the curses and us going on ships out of here because of our disobedience. So you may say, well, why were they so willing to go? You got to understand the situation. We was down in the south of Africa, right? We was there. Why? Because we ran for safety. So we thinking like, man, we got to get up out of here, man. These folks trying to get us, still trying to get us, hunting us down out of fear. Out of fear. Like, let's get out of here. Let's go over here and we can start afresh. But you can't run from the curses. You can't run from Bible prophecy. You know, some people get so up in arms about Black Wall Street, but then nobody really wants to talk about why God allowed Black Wall Street to be bombed. Yes, it was a terrible situation, but the bigger question I keep on telling y'all to ask is, why did God allow it to happen? Black Wall Street was allowed to be bombed because Black Wall Street was set up without the Most High. It was set up without God. And God said, you're not about to do that. You're not about to receive these physical wealth, these physical riches without me. Because you don't have the physical riches and the prestige and everything because of your disobedience. So now you pretty much spit in my face that much more, saying that, hey, we're going to get this prosperity. We're going to get this money without you. We don't need you, God. And if God allowed that to happen, meaning, you know what I'm saying, for Israel to continue to rise and rise and rise and rise, then that will go against his very word that he gave us, that we were going to be the tail and not the head because of our disobedience. So black people and white people had their hand in bringing us over here. And it was more so black people that knew about this, that were in bed with these white people, that tricked our ancestors onto the ship. Like, how many people, you know, ain't gonna jump at an opportunity like that to get up out of there and get a fresh start? Same thing they were telling the Europeans, that they were gonna get a fresh start. They just happened to obviously get a fresh start. So this is what really happened, y'all. This is the whole story. They tricked them on the ship. They tricked them, deceived them to go on the ship, thinking it was for one reason. And then once they got them down to the bottom, it was kind of like a tour. Like, yeah, we're going to take care of y'all. We got this big old ship. We got this food and everything. You ain't got to worry about nothing. And once they got down to the bottom, it was a wrap. They weren't getting out. Got them down to the very bottom, to the hole, which is where we know the slaves were.
So, they're bringing us from Africa over here. The colored folks want to throw me off. Throw them overboard. Throw them overboard. And the white wouldn't reject. Don't you throw that boy off there. Throw him overboard. Goddamn, let the damn whale swallow him like it done Jonah. That's what they said. Don't throw me off the boat. Bringing me from Africa in the United States. Got us over here to slave us. Just put you on the block to slave you. Put you on a stage, over the call it a block. Put you up on a stage. Just a matter of body. The highest ability to get you. Get on you.
Never heard of it.
The highest ability to get you. He will carry his plantation. Put another one up there. The highest ability who can ever beat the Moses, he came to his plantation. He had the white in the south. And they went to mistreating them, the colored. Getting children by the colored women. And all cities there. Getting colored. And the white find it out how they're treating us. And they come down here to first of all, over in the United States, north and south, fought the war to free the colored.
And who was it that bought you? Do you remember who bought you?
Bought me.
Yeah.
Oh, I was, when I went to New Orleans, that's where they sold the people. The man that raised me, he didn't buy me. The man that raised me, they was kind of put you up on the block to sell you. He was Jake. The man was Jake. He named me. That's the name I'm going now. Charles Smith. He named me when he took me. He raised me in Texas, Galveston, Texas, where I was raised in. And the man that raised me named Charles Smith, and that's the name he gave me. Mm-hmm. He gave me Charles Smith in order to teach me and his children. He treated me just like he treated his children in everything. Not one thing, everything.
So we see this man was raised by a white man, a white family, and he said that they treated him just as if he was one of their own children. Regardless of what you think, if they did or didn't, in his eyes, he didn't see no difference in comparison to the other stories that we know about slaves and what they went through. So not everybody had it hard in regards to how slavery overall is painted. Yes, we know overall slavery, it is what it is. And you can't speak against it because it is Bible prophecy. But just because a person was in slavery and raised by white people. It doesn't mean that they were treated like dogs or whatever. To that extent, I'm pretty sure he went through some things or whatnot, as we all do. I can relate to this man because I was born in the land of my captors, America. I was born in the city of brotherly love, which is interesting, Philadelphia. But I wasn't subjected to a lot of stuff that other black people went through. I didn't start really dealing with racism until I was born again. I grew up around white people and black people, people from all different cultures, because my dad was in the military. I lived in Germany for like 8 years, went to the German school and everything and all that. So what I believe is that God allowed Mr. Smith, and he obviously took that name on from his slave master or whatnot, but he had no problem taking it. And I'm pretty sure if you look at that name and also his original name and look at it in the old ancient languages, you will see a direct connection. I believe that the Lord allowed him to be brought over into captivity more so because of his parents' disobedience, and also more so because of his father's disobedience. That now the child is gone and they over there trying to figure out what's going on. He ain't came home because he's been on the ship that his mom said he can go on to never be seen again. So that's what I believe happened in regards to why the Most High allowed him to be shipped off into captivity, yet he lived a pretty good life. He lived a pretty good life. And that's exactly what we see in the scriptures. The Bible said that the sins of the father will go onto the children.
We ate together, we slept together. All the boys, now we can sleep in little women now. All the boys slept together. He's a cattleman, Charlie Smith, raised me. He had all kind of cattle, and all of us told his pistols and something to shoot. And I was on this colored cowboy. I got on a cowboy shirt now. I got bought from Texas. Been had it all my days.
So just in case you didn't catch it, he said that he had a pistol. He carried a pistol. How many black people, living amongst white people during that time period had a gun? So in his eyes, he probably didn't see himself as a slave. Obviously, he was indoctrinated with certain things, being raised up under that family, but that would be anybody. Anybody would be indoctrinated with certain beliefs and take on certain customs of whatever culture or whatever people that they are around. But this man was carrying around a pistol and dressing as a cowboy. He saw himself as a cowboy, and he even said that I got a cowboy shirt on right now. When he did this interview, he had a cowboy shirt on because he saw himself as a cowboy, because that's how he was raised. So we see that this man was not raised the typical way that we know about in regards to what our ancestors went through. Not everybody went through that. It's according to how God sees fit. In the same way, in the book of Revelation, people talk about persecution, and being beheaded and dying for your faith. But then in the book of Revelation, when Jesus is addressing the 7 churches, there's only one church he speaks to specifically about enduring until you die for his name's sake. It doesn't mean that we may not be faced with literal death, but what it does mean is that not everybody dies in that regards, being a martyr for the faith. It just depends on what God sees fit according to his will. In the same way, God saw fit for majority of us to go through the atrocity part of slavery, while this man here, he lived a pretty cushy life all the way up to his death of at least 100 years old. So, you know, we got to make sure that we are fair in our judgment when we are researching these things and receiving all of the truth, and not simply what we want to receive to, you know what I'm saying, because we want to push something. Like, you don't have to lie or manipulate the truth to push a doctrine that's true, because if the doctrine is true, it's going to speak for itself no matter which way you look at it.
I was raised up a cowboy. I was the only cowboy, colored cowboy he had. He was in Texas. His name was Charlie Smith. And he always teach me and his children, anything you got to have, don't never let it give out. And saying, enjoy your money when you're living. You can't carry none of it with you when you're dead. He said, millionaires die and leave all they got. Everything they got, they ain't carry nothing with them. His name was Charlie Smith, and he named me Charlie Smith. And he always told me, don't change my name. And when he died, he had 3 or 4 of them. He didn't put no money in no bank. He had these little money safes. People got them now in some places, in the houses, you know. He had two in the drugstore, in the dry goods store, and 2 in the grocery store. That made 4. That way he kept his money and all his cowboy money. What we didn't do. We, all cowboys, wore boots. Half-a-leg boots and knee, what you call knee boots, that come clean to your knees. Well, we told it out what he didn't keep for us, we carried our boots. And I was the only colored cowboy that he had. All the rest of them was white. We told his pistols and rifles. We carried them. He killed bears and panthers and things like that. When he eating up the stock, he was a cattleman. He had plenty of cattle. And all the animals, bears, panthers, and things like that, and lions. They'd eat up the pigs and the young stuff. That's what the cowboys was carrying the pistols and rifles. They killed them.
Now, what did you do after the slaves were freed? After you was with him?
With him?
You just went ahead and working, huh?
Well, when they freed the color, we just say the man would, when they freed the color, they bought the whole state of Louisiana and give the colored people their territory to make their laws and rules. And the colored people sold the rights. All they have to, when they get up in the wood and property and anything, they have to get it them through by the white. Now, that's the way it's done. They ain't got can't make no laws, can't make no rules. If they make them, the white let them have it, they sold out.
Now, after he died, then where did you go then?
After who died?
After this Charlie Smith.
He ain't dead.
Well, I mean the one that...
Oh, he did, all right, but where I went, he sold the colored folks. After he sold the colored people, after slavery time, he sold the colored folks.
Did you go out?
And the first war was in the North and the South fought war. The North bought colored people, and the South bought colored folks. And the North got the Southern white folks to look after them and take care of them. They wouldn't camp north, said it was too cold for them, and got the Southern white folks to look after them. And the Southern white folks went to mistreating them.
Well, did you go out west then, or
no? I wasn't
stay there?
in the west. I wasn't in the west then. Yeah, I was in the west when they freed them.
That's what I mean. After freedom.
Yeah, after freedom, I was in the west. I was in the Cowboy man Charlie when they went to selling them people. He rejected selling me. Put you up on the block. He rejected. Because he ruled that part of Texas. He was a cattleman. And he ruled that part of Galveston. He ruled that part, and what he said, he went.
Well,
And when they sell me, put me on the block again, he rejected. And he didn't do it. And he raised me, carried me to his house, and raised me. He named me Charlie. His name was Charlie, and he named me Charlie.
Well,
His name was Charlie
after
Smith.
that, did you go up to Mississippi? Did you?
That's the name he gave me. That's the name. My name, what my mother and father named me, my name Mitchell Watkins. But he stole me and he got me, and he named me Charlie. That's the name I go in. And when he died. And when he died, he always teach me his children. Didn't teach us one thing, he teaches all. He said, anything you got to have, don't never let it live out. And he said, enjoy your money when you're living. Because you can't carry none of it with you when you're dead. Enjoy your money when you're living. He teaches that all the time. And I didn't go to school much. But I thought I hadn't been used to toting no pistols and nothing to shoot with. And I was so full of more my pistols and rifles I had to carry. And I did anything else. But I was only this colored boy. All the cowboys were white. We all ate together. We slept together. Now everything. There was no difference in the treatment at all. None. No man, Charlie.
Did you move up to Mississippi? Did you go to Mississippi eventually?
Oh, I've been all over the United States.
You worked in Mississippi, didn't you?
I'm a state man, mister. I work for the United States. I go get bad people. I'm a state man, and real as long as I live, them my thought is right here. I'm a state man. I'm the man when me and Billy the Kid, man, when got the man killed the president. And the state named me. I got 3 names. The United States, I work for the United States now. Named me Trigger Kid. Me and Billy the Kid went and got the man killed the president. Went and got him. Had a $500 reward and they bought to go get him. He killed the president. Guitar killed Garfield. Garfield was the first president that was killed for the United States. And the man killed him named Guitar and went back over in his state where he come from.
That was Charles Guitar, wasn't it?
And when us put out the $500 reward and they bought to go get him, that was 6 men right at the line of the states. You had to get started from them to go over there. Everybody go over there to get him from $500. Them men to kill him.
So let me plug this real quick. What he's saying is, if you don't know, is that he became a bounty hunter. He became a bounty hunter, which makes sense because he was a cowboy, because his you say the person that was over him, his ruler, the Charlie Smith that was over him, that kept him for himself, he was also a cowboy. So Charlie Smith, the black version, he followed in the footsteps of this man, and everything that they were doing, it ended up working for the United States as a bounty hunter.
Killed him, them 6 men. They kill you. If you go over there and get that man done to kill him, he went back in that state, because that's the state he was born and raised in. And the 6 men right at the line of the United States. And you had to get started from them to go any further in that state. And he done it. And me and Billy the Kid, you started us over there. The United States named me Trigger Kid, but that's the name I gave him. I've been working for the United States. I work for the United States now. If you're bad or get all bad people, that's my job now, white or black. If you do the wrong thing and they send me at you, or the reason I don't get you, I won't see you. The son of Satan. The man killed the president.
It's running.
It's running.
You picked some fruit, didn't you? You done quite a lot of fruit picking?
Oh, I've done all kinds.
Yeah.
Here, right here. Here's my picture. Me and this man, that's my picture. And that's my age. And it's a stroke. That's a white man. Me and him are the 2 oldest people in the world at that time. I was staying at a town called Armadale. There it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
I was picking fruit, doing everything. Yeah.
And they told me you were picking fruit when you was 113. Is that right?
Oh, right, don't you see?
And see,
That's it. That's it. For tell folks that, you know, that's in the state. It's printed and sent to me to show people.
Yeah.
The United States. I'm going to work for the United States now. I'm a state man. I work for the United States. I'll go get bad people, white or black. Don't care how old, who you is. If we do the wrong thing, I'm a United States man as long as I live.
were you interviewed by Robert Ripley? You remember that Robert Ripley?
Robert Biddy.
Ripley, he's right there. That's believe it or not.
Well, I remember all bad people. I remember white or black.
This Ripley's the man you're pictured with there, Charlie.
Yeah, that's it. That's the reason I said. I show it to people. Me and this man was the two oldest people in the world and the quietest to me. That's a white man. And the state named me Trigger Kid. Me and Billy the Kid, when we got the man killed the president. Guitar killed Garfield. Garfield was the president of the United States.
He would know, but I've read about it.
And then he killed him. Guitar
Charles
killed
Guitar.
Garfield. And everybody go over there to get him for them $500. They killed him. There was 6 men right at the line of the states. And everybody go over there to get the man who killed the president. That's what state he was raised in, the man done to kill him. He go back in that state. That's the state he was born and raised in.
Do you remember what state that was, Charlie?
Where?
The state where this Garfield went back in, guitar.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if I forgot it now. But I know he went back in the state. Yeah. He went back in the state he was born and raised in. And when he got to kill the man, he went back in that state. Well, there's 6 men at the line of the Baltimore. 6 men killed everybody to go over there to get him. After this man went down to kill him. Guitar killed Garfield. Garfield was the first president that was killed of the United States.
They wrote a book about it, you know.
And Guitar killed him and went back in that state where he was born and raised in. And everybody went over there to get him. Them 6 men that had the line, they did kill them. And they killed them. And the son, me, and Billy the Kid. The state named me Trigger Kid. And Billy the Kid, that was a white man. We went over there and was right up there. And they said, hey, where you going? They were them 6 men. Called them 6 men hooking bulls. You had to get started from them to go any further in that state. Where you going? Going across the desert. All right, you get started from us. You got started, said we cussed. Said we got started. We got started from the United States. Showed them this. Here I was got me. So here I was goddamn Florida. That's what they told them 6 men.
Well,
Called them 6 men hooking bulls. They read on, all right, go ahead. They said, we damn sure going. Read on off. Got to the camp with his guard. Sort of want to search. Y'all come to the guard was there. Y'all come by the hooking bulls, we cuss. So we come by some damn bull or another. Where you got started from the hooking bull to search. The boss of the camp ain't here.
keep you to time. It's just working.
The boss of the camp ain't here. He said if you want to search, the boss in the camp ain't here. The guards was there.
Just hold this right there so it don't rock it.
The guards was there.
Well, coming back to the modern day or later, did the Social Security people, did they come see you?
Social Security?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. You remember how old you were then?
Yeah. The man raised me, yeah. The man raised me, give me the name I got. Charlie Smith.
But I
I was
mean,
raised in Galveston, Texas.
but I mean later. Were you about 113 when the Social Security people come and see
Well,
you?
I don't show it to you there, too,
Well,
down
that's what I
there.
thought, what I thought it said.
I don't show it to you.
And you're not
Keep
wearing...
on asking him a question, that's the reason I showed it to you. Yeah, I showed it to you. My age, Yeah, I'm older now, and it was then. I'm older now. I'm 144. Last year, 4th of July. 144 years old now. My birthday, I get a birthday card. I'm 144. Last 4th day of July, last year. I'm
And
144.
you don't wear glasses.
No, I ain't no one now.
And you don't wear hearing aids. Is that it?
I got hearing. I hear just as good now as I ever hearing.
I believe
And I
that.
see good as ever. The United States takes care of me. The United States. If they send me the action, or to read out on get you out on see you. I'm the man that straighten up Wall Street. There's something there. Colored people couldn't stay there. You could go uptown, but they didn't stay in Wall Street. I'll straighten it up. The state's something today to straighten it. Now colored people own property there. Right between here and Wall Street. The colored porter couldn't get off the train there. White folks didn't allow him to get off the colored porter on the train. Couldn't get off there. The state something to do. Straighten it up. I straighten it. The colored porter can get off there. Now colored people on property in Wall Street. I had to go to here to Oxford. Sign was printed up there right at the depot. Put the sign say, read nigger and run. That wasn't on the sign. The state something it is. So go tear that sign down. So if you need any help, let us know. I went there. The sign is right up there. Right at the depot. So read nigger and run. You see, he asked me, you got authority? I said, yeah, I've got authority. Present your authorities. Hear my goddamn authorities and hear my help. E45. I tore it down. At Oxford. I tore it down. Anywhere the states tell me to go and do, I do it. Now, all this ever since I've been waiting for I've been waiting for the United States 100 years when I go over.
Do you belong to the Mason Lodge?
Yeah. I was made a Mason. I've been put. Time I got old enough, I was put in it. The man raised me, put me in the Mason. I've been a Mason 100 years. If I want a Mason, I couldn't join you and any other man get my age. Anybody, white or black, you can get too old to join the Mason.
All right, so even though Charles Smith most likely was brought over here on the slave ship because of his father and mother, at some point in time, a person becomes responsible for their own sins. And we see that. We see as the interview goes on, the way he's talking and stuff, he was really, he loved the United States. Now, what I don't like about this interview is that they aren't asking questions that I feel like are relevant. If it was me, if it was probably anybody else, they would have been asking more questions about him coming over on the slave ship. How was that? Because those details are more important than what he was doing over here in America. But obviously they purposely did that. They didn't focus too much on that. They didn't grill him on those questions. They didn't ask him why the other slaves were wanting to throw him off the slave ship. All these different things. These are, important questions to ask if you're going to do an interview with the man who, at the time, was allegedly, whether you believe it or not, one of the oldest or the oldest black man in America. And according to the media, he was the oldest. But you get publicity and stuff off of that by saying that he was the oldest man in America, oldest American. But he said there was another white guy there that was also old, also as old as him. I don't remember how old he said he was or whatever. So we see that they made him a Mason. Obviously, we know about that and stuff like that. So we see where he started to go when he got to America, what road he went down. And you notice he doesn't talk much about Africa. There were opportunities where he himself could have spoke about it more. He doesn't talk about that too much. He doesn't talk about the Bible, doesn't say anything about the Bible, yet he quotes the Bible when he said that the other slaves were saying, throw him overboard, throw him overboard, throw him overboard like Jonah. So that's why I said you have to be fair in your judgment. You just can't, okay, this guy's, he's legit and everything, blase, blase. No, we got to look at his whole life, his whole story. And him becoming a Mason is a part of his life story. And so we see the same thing going on today, where many Hebrew Israelites, what we call African Americans, they take on this Western mindset so much, these Eurocentric mindset, this Eurocentric Christian mindset so much, that they forget where they came from and who they're supposed to be.
You can get too young to join. And when I got old enough, the man put me in the Mason. One man, Charlotte, he put me in the Mason. If I want one, I couldn't go. That's in a ring, but the set drops out of the square and comfort. He dropped it out.
Well, I'm a Mason.
That was this ring. That's a sit was in that ring, and he dropped out. I was in a Mason 100 years. Old man Charlie put me in the Mason. I'm the first colored man ever made a Mason in the United States. You know, if I want now, not only me, nobody got age. You can get too old to join the Mason, and you can get too young to join the Mason. And if I want now I couldn't be because I was too old. And anybody my age, white or black, you can't join the Mason at that age. I know it. I've been a Mason 100 years. I know Mason.
Are you speaking of cowboys? We're both cowboys. We're right out of.
Oh yeah, I'm the only colored cowboy man Charlie had. He had plenty of cowboys, but I was the only one he had. He raised me.
How many were there in your family originally?
Oh, my family?
Yeah.
Oh,
your mother and your children.
I didn't have but one brother and two sisters. Three sisters with the baby sister. My two older sisters, one of them was named. One of them was, both of them were married all right. My oldest, and my baby sister, she's a little kid. She's the baby of all the children. I had one brother. His name was Simon Waddington.
So somebody might say, well, his brother's name couldn't have been Simon and everything because, you know, it was a different language or whatever. Well, you got to understand the meaning of names and stuff like that. Just like in the Bible, Simon Peter. Who is Simon? Simon is also Simon Peter. When we speak about Simon majority of the time, we're talking about Simon Peter. Who is Cephas? Cephas is also Peter. And he also had another name that he went by, depending on the language. But guess what? The name in every language meant the same thing. Peter means a stone, a rock. Guess what Cephas means? Cephas means the same thing. So I also found it interesting that his brother was named Simon, which is a biblical name, and he was named Mitchell. You go look at the name Mitchell. The root of Mitchell is Michael. And we know that Michael is also a biblical name. If you trace that all the way back. So both of both him and his brother, they had biblical names being located in Africa. Obviously, it would not have been pronounced Simon in the language, the native language, but Simon means the same thing as Cephas, and Mitchell is derived from Michael.
My name, what my mother said, the name Mitchell Waterson. The man who had the name of Charles Smith, that's a white man raised me in Texas. Charles Smith. And he treated me just like he treated his children. In everything, we ate together, slept together. Yeah. And when he died,
Well,
people bragged on preachers so good and so honest and all like that. When he died, I give him money to a preacher brag on preachers. I give him money to preachers, but I won't talk to myself. All the cowboys told the old boots and what money did old man Charlie didn't keep us. We kept it ourselves in our boots. And I was the only colored cowboy. And we all read together, we all ate together. Not in one time, all the time. And I was treated just like one of the white.
Did you see, you worked in Mississippi at one time, did you?
Yeah, I worked everywhere I went. When they killed that preacher there, I was staying right down the road there called Albany there. When that preacher struck with the started us to Denver, Colorado.
I wonder if we haven't about covered this, and we'll take some pictures. Is that all right? And
So we see that Mr. Smith, or Mr. Watkins, he had some issues where he pretty much just became completely ingrained into the Western society and the Western mindset. But you must always ask why. Don't just, okay, I'm going to go with that. Look at the whole story. Why did he end up having that mindset? Well, ultimately because of our ancestors' disobedience that led up to him being tricked onto the ship to come over to America. But because of how his own people treated him. Now, I would have to have gotten firsthand account of why the people were saying throw him overboard, throw him overboard, throw him overboard, or whatnot. But you work with what you have to work with, and as time goes on, the Lord will reveal different things to us and more things to us. But that was the root of the of why he took on that Western mindset. Obviously, nobody came to him and reminded him or whatnot. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe put it out his mind. But this is where he came from. He came from the slave ship. His own people wanted to throw him overboard. His own people tricked him, deceived him with the help of the white man to bring him over here. And then he had white people that was helping him. So what do you expect him to do? So again, we see that he had that resentment toward his own people because his own people took him from his land by deceiving him, thinking he was going to, go over there for work or whatnot. Maybe he would just come over to check it out, which I think that's what he said, if I remember correctly. But I just wanted to share this video, give you some things to definitely think about and not just look at it from the flesh, but really understand what's going on. Because a lot of people, they're not going to share videos like this that are going to be honest. So with that being said, God bless each and every one of you in Jesus Christ's name. As always, stay focused for Jesus. And as you know, the truth is not debated. It is declared.
Thanks for waking up with us.